Okay. All right. Thank you. And my name is Nan Stolzenburg. I'm a land use and environmental planner, and I work with municipalities across New York State doing comprehensive plans. About 60% of my work is the nuts and bolts of putting a comprehensive plan together. So I'm hoping that my 20 minutes will give you some specifics about, we've heard a lot today about the importance of a comprehensive plan, but what actually is it and what needs to be in it in order to make it successful for you. So you've heard some of the, wow, this is really important and it's the foundation. So I'm going to kind of go through quickly a couple of these first slides. But I can give you the comprehensive plan in three sections. It answers three questions. The first question is, what are the current conditions in the community? What's going on in town or the village right now? The second part of the comprehensive plan asks and answers, where do you want to be in the future? That's your vision statement. And the third part of the comprehensive plan is, what are you going to do about it? So you put those three pieces together. What do you have? Where do you want to be? And how are you going to get there? And that's basically what your comprehensive plan should be discussing in some form or another. The comprehensive plans are authorized from New York state law for village law and town law. It's important to know that in New York state, comprehensive plans are not mandated. Municipalities are not required to have a comprehensive plan, but they are certainly recognized as having a critical role in municipalities. And there's all sorts of implications, good implications of having a comprehensive plan beyond just the gas drilling issue, but all sorts of things. For instance, when you have a comprehensive plan, another governmental agency must refer and consider your comprehensive plan when they're doing their capital projects. Let me just go back here. I think the tie that I want to make, everyone's talked about why comprehensive plans are so important, but the tie is, if you look at your zoning law, you'll see the very first thing in your zoning law is a set of purpose statements. Why are you regulating land use? The purpose statement is the reason, the rationale for doing something, and that comes from your comprehensive plan. So you can think of your comprehensive plan as the rationale for regulating something, and the zoning and the site plan and your subdivision laws are how you implement your policies. So the two are tied together very closely. So I want to get right into what makes a good comprehensive plan. And there's all sorts of different comprehensive plans out there. Some are very general, and they're basically a big vision statement without a lot of detail. And some are very detailed, right down to what zoning is going to be taking place in what district. But we want to make sure that when we're trying to plan for heavy industry, really any kind of land use, but for today's topic, when we're really trying to pull this together to help you understand what you need to put in place to deal with this issue, there are some things that I certainly recommend that you have in there. First of all, the word comprehensive. It's not looking at just one thing. In fact, a comprehensive plan is not a land use plan. It goes beyond just land use, and it talks about the economy and housing and recreation. All of those things are tied together. It needs to reflect your community. As Chris talked about, the role of the public being involved and telling you what they desire for their future, what their fears are, what their goals are. That is the foundation. I think a comprehensive plan is one of the most basic democratic kind of documents we have because it grows and it's developed from the ground up. So it serves the public purpose. That is the goal of the comprehensive plan. It gives forethought to land use problems. It's developed through careful and deliberate review. That's why they're not done in a month or 2 months. Maybe we don't need 5 years to put one together, but it's not really a quick 1, 2, 3 process. And it tries to look at reasonable, foreseeable needs. 5 years ago, I can tell you we were not thinking of gas drilling. It just wasn't on the horizon. But we have an opportunity to amend and update your comprehensive plan so that it is relevant to whatever's going on in the community at the time. So the first part of the comprehensive plan is to understand the current conditions of the community. What does that really mean? Well, that means you want to be as comprehensive and detailed as your time and your budget allow. You want to cover all sorts of topics, from the environment to housing, infrastructure, the economy, and the functioning of the local government are all topics that should be looked at and evaluated in your profile and inventory. Your vision statement, as I mentioned, is the second part of the comprehensive plan. That comes from public input. Goal statements are a very important component of the comprehensive plan because it builds on, you have this kind of motherhood and apple pie. This is what we want for our community, and the goals kind of drill down more specifically to say, here's more specific what our tasks are going to be, and then our strategies and actions come from that. I really recommend that, and I know that there's hard budgets everywhere, but there are, as Chris said, there are places where you can get information that already exists, but you try and collect as much of the known information as possible. But this list that I have here, especially relating to the issue of heavy industry and hydrofracking, you need to have your comprehensive plan describe and define in charts and maps as much detail as you can all of these resources in your community. Again, because we want to make the tie between the resource, the issue, and what you're going to do about it. So for each one of these topics, you want to analyze what it is, where it is, how it functions in your community, and what are the threats to that resource. How does your community value that resource? Some of these ones at the bottom, the road plan, a water study, looking at scenic views, are all sorts of things that add to the understanding of what your community is and what you value. And the comprehensive plan is the first place where you articulate what those things are. So each one of these topics should be covered in your comprehensive plan. If you already have a comprehensive plan, go back and see whether these things are addressed. Lots of times I look at a plan and they have great vision statements and they have great goals, but there's none of this background information to help you put and tie the two together. Here's one that I think is one of the most important aspects of a comprehensive plan, especially related to this topic of hydrofracking, is that you need to have your comprehensive plan define what your community character is. Everybody says, oh, well, what do you want to be in the future? I want to be a rural community. We want to stay a small community. We want to stay an agricultural community. But what is that? What's a rural community to me may be a very different definition for a rural community to someone else. So you should take your comprehensive plan, and wherever you see the word community character, you should go back and make sure there's, in your own words, a definition of what your community character is. Describe the environmental features of your community that are important to you. Define the landscape. But community character is not just what you see visual. It's the sense of place, it's the economy, it's the social atmosphere of your community, it's the architecture in the streetscape. All of those should be specifically defined in your comprehensive plan. And those words that you use to define community character should come from the public. Usually when we do a survey or a workshop, we ask them to describe community character now and what you want it to be in the future. And you use the words that come from the public to say, this is who we are. And that's where I believe the strength of the comprehensive plan comes from, is when you can articulate who you are and what you want to be in the future. Lots of studies and lots of information can help inform your community character and your profile and inventory. We've talked about GIS, which is a computerized mapping system. You can get some of that information. Most counties are very willing to give you that information in your village or your town. But there are some other things that are really important too, and I'm going to talk a minute about doing a groundwater or a hydrogeological study showing the sensitive water areas, where the water goes in, where it comes out, where it's vulnerable to pollution. looking at wildlife habitats and the biodiversity of your community, doing a build-out analysis, which Ted is going to talk about in more detail. A build-out analysis can look at what the future potential capacity for development in your community could be. And that can help tell you what are the implications of our current zoning, what are the implications of our lack of zoning, if that's what you have. Your transportation study should be part of your comprehensive plan. What are your roads like? How many roads do you have? Are they all paved? Do you have bridges that are crumbling? What is your traffic volume on the roads? Has it changed over the years? Those are all things that describe what you have, and you have to start with knowing what you got before you can determine what you have to do about it. And of course, your land use analysis, which looks at where your residential development, your agriculture, your commercial development, where they are in relationship to each other and to your natural resources. All of those things are part of doing that profile and inventory to help you understand what's going on in your community. This is an example of a viewshed analysis that was done using GIS. It started with public input where the public identified, oh, you know, such and such a road is like a really valued place in our community. And you can use the GIS system. In this particular example, we identified critical ridge lines, the direction from the roads in the community that look at those ridge lines, and the buffer areas that we needed to protect those ridge lines. That was part of the profile and inventory of the comprehensive plan. Once you have that information, you can then translate it into what do we do about it? How do we protect those ridge lines? We've identified where they are and why they're valuable, and now the plan is going to tell us what to do about it. This is an example of a groundwater study that was done over in Montgomery County in the town of Minden. And it was done through with a hydrogeologist that identified, this is one map among many, but this particular one shows the locations in town that are the most vulnerable to water pollution because of the structure of the soil and the rocks. And by putting together a map like that, you can, in one kind of bird's eye view, get a look at the vulnerable locations in your town, which, especially related to planning for gas drilling, I think is a critical, detail to know where these things are. And oftentimes, I'm going back, oftentimes you see that the most sensitive areas in the community are also those areas that are currently being developed because they're easier to develop. They're flatter lands, they have the water. So we have this inherent conflict between critical environmental resources and where it's often easier to develop, that the comprehensive plan has to kind of evaluate and massage and try and find a balance to. Another tool that we use by using GIS in a comprehensive plan is this same community here, where we took all the environmental information that we knew and kind of took all of those layers and put them all together so we have a map of all of the critical locations in the community. This particular map shows ridge lines, steep slopes, wetlands, hydrogeologically sensitive areas, critical farming areas. So you have all that information in one place, and very quickly you can look and analyze that map, compare it to your values in the direction that your community wants to take, and say, we know where we have to be the most restrictive or protective of, and we know where there are areas that maybe have a better potential for development, whether it's housing development or gas drilling. So this is just one of the tools, the basic tools that should be, in my opinion, as much as you can, as time and budgets allow, to try and include in your comprehensive plan. The vision statement. I really want to convey the importance of being specific in your vision statement. The vision statement on the left is the town will maintain its rural community character. Great, it says a lot. But what it says to me might mean something different to someone else. You can take that same sentiment and with populating it from all the details you learned in your profile and inventory, come up with another vision statement that really tells the picture and that really says what you as your community want to be. We're going to be active agriculture, low density of residences, small scale businesses, no heavy industries, in a clean environment, especially air and water. That's a vision statement that really helps people understand what you really want. And so later on, when push comes to shove and you're going to argue and go to court over your laws, you will come back to what do you as a community want for yourself? And that is articulated in the vision statement. The actions. These are the strategies. That is the third kind of leg of the comprehensive plan where you say, what are we going to do about it? What are your policies? What are the regulations? What are the programs or the grants that you're going to put together to attain your goals in your vision? This is another place to be as specific as possible. You can have a goal, or you can have an action that says protect open space through zoning. But really, when I'm given a comprehensive plan that says protect open space through zoning, I have to go back and replan and figure out what you mean by that. So instead, be as specific as you can about the actions that you want to put into place. That will help make the town board or the village board be able to implement your comprehensive plan easier, and that's what we want to get. Your action toolbox that you put in your comprehensive plan should articulate what you want for yourself. What kind of zoning tools or regulatory tools do you want to put in place? We have overlay districts like scenic overlays, watershed protection overlays, historic overlays, critical environmental areas that you can identify. All of those flow from the data that you've collected in your plan and what you want to do about it. We've heard from other presenters talking about site plan review is a critical tool. Special use permits is a critical tool. You can also have single topic laws. Some communities have a cell tower law. Standalone would be a single topic law. Subdivision regulations and road use laws are all tools that your comprehensive plan can include to say, this is what we're going to use to accomplish our goals and attain our vision. In specific relating to the gas drilling topics, this list here, and it's in your packet, so I won't go through every single one of them, but these are the kinds of things you should be addressing. These are the kinds of things that I would guess that many of you who have zoning already kind of nibble around the edges on these topics. Many laws have things about odors or noise, or regulating hotels or protecting floodplains. But these are all of this is the toolbox that you should be looking at in your comprehensive plan to specifically get at how you are going to address gas drilling, whether it's in one location in the town or the entire town. These are the regulations that you should be looking at. It can also address some of these other areas, floodplains, stream corridors, aquifer protection. If you have that water study done and you know where the sensitive water areas are in town, you can create a zoning district to address that specific environmental resource. So these are in your packet. You can, I know I'm going through this kind of fast, but you can, when you look at your comprehensive plan or you're doing an update or a new comprehensive plan, these are the tools that you should look at to try and attain whatever your vision and your goals are. So that was like a really quick 101 on what should be in a comprehensive plan, and I'll turn it over to Ted to go into some more detail.